Hello and welcome to another edition of the Fatu Network News Review. Today, 11th September 2018. My name is Omar Wali. I will start with the Standard newspaper. Former Interior Minister Momodu Aliu Ba resigns from the APRC party. You may remember we had an interview with him yesterday saying that he has, in consultation with his family, friends, and his close associates, he has decided to quit the APRC party. That is on the Standard newspaper. And Lai Sen also denied charges. You may remember he's standing trial for 2 counts of incitement of violence and seditious intention before Banjul Magistrate Court. And during the trial yesterday, a fight broke out between his supporters and an organization that are fighting bigotry in the New Gambia. And the lawmakers also questioned Agric Minister over the 4.5 million unused aid. That is on Monday, the lawmakers asked the Agriculture Minister to give them an account of the 4.5 million US, almost 100,000 US dollars donated to the Chinese embassy for the flood victims of Kuntauru, and an amount that has still not been utilized. And APRC also is concerned about over the TRRC appointment. The interim leader Fabakary Tombong raised an eyebrows during a press conference saying that Alaji Barrow took up arms against the former regime and he is not fit to be part of the TRRC as head of research and investigation. The Point newspaper also is reporting that M.A. Ba resigns from the APRC party, and court warns licensed family. The same story, different headlines. He appeared in court yesterday, and as you may know, there was a scuffle between his supporters and the organization fighting for bigotry in the country. And the Voice newspaper, 11 compound flooded in Sarasambel village, and they're also reporting that M.A. Ba resigns from the APRC party, and Gambia government addresses GTU. The Minister of Basic and Secondary Education has made a swift reaction to address the concern raised by the Gambia's Teachers Union. The teachers threatened to embark on a strike, but they resolved the problem. So that's all we have for you today on the papers. And I have a guest with me here, Professor Ablai Sen, a Gambian academic from the Miami University in the United States. Mr. Sen, welcome.
Well, thank you so much for inviting me.
Well, you have been in this country before. Sometimes this year, you delivered a lecture at the University of the Gambia.
Last year, yes.
So, is it correct to say that we have reports that you are finally home, that you'll be lecturing at the University of the Gambia? Is that true?
Well, it's partly true.
Okay.
I am going back and forth, and it just so happens today I will be starting my first class at the University of the Gambia.
Okay, what will you be lecturing?
I am going to be teaching a graduate seminar on international political economy.
Okay, international political economy. Can you just put us through what exactly do you mean?
Okay, international political economy looks at the intersection between economics and politics, how political decisions affect the economic policies that are put in place. Okay. In other words, for many years now, it has become clearly apparent that economics and politics do intermingle and impact each other in a very important ways. So the course basically looks at issues of globalization, debt, investments, and how in fact they shape the choices and the decisions of politicians within countries in the so-called third world.
What do you make of the University of the Gambia? I'm sure you have gone through the curriculum and the quality of the school and the curriculum. What do you make of it?
There's still a lot of work to be done. The quality of the offerings clearly need improvement. Morale for the faculty is lacking. Students also need not only financial support, but a library for sure, among other things. So there's a lot of work to be done at the university for sure.
So what will be your, apart from the lecturing side, what will be your contribution having served in one can say prestigious university in the United States. What will you do in making sure that the university have all those facilities, like the library and so on?
Well, we will continue as in the past to try and bring books to the university. We are also looking into organizing a forum on education that would focus on the university, among other things, its vision, the future, and really what needs to be done to get the infrastructure in place before we bring in the library and the books and so forth and so on. What kind of Gambia are we talking about? What kind of new Gambia are we contemplating? I think these are fundamental issues that need to be addressed first. Then the institutions can come to support whatever follows.
Now let's move a bit of politics. During the previous administration, you were critical of Jammeh's government, and I remember you had an interview with the then BBC Network Africa, where you were interviewed when Halifa Sallah was arrested. And you said, and I remember you said, after the coup d'etat 2006, President Jammeh was extremely paranoid. He think everybody was there trying to hunt him down. But most of your critics said when the new administration took place, you were silenced. What happened?
Well, I have been making constructive criticisms vis-a-vis the new government. I think at this time, less than 2 years into office, I think Gambians in the diaspora as well as those at home ought to provide as much support as they possibly can for the new administration. There's this problem of rising expectations.
Yes.
Anytime after a revolution, like the one we had, it was a non-violent revolution, expectations spiral. And this is to be expected. But I'm saying those expectations will not be fulfilled, will not be met in 2 years. It will take some time.
How long do you think it will?
It's hard to tell. It is really hard to tell. But at the same time, that doesn't absolve the current administration in addressing some of the key issues that I think ought to be addressed. One of which would be electricity, security. Security is, the crime in the Gambia relatively is pretty low, but at the same time out there, individual security seems to be threatened. And I believe the government ought to begin addressing that. Power supplies, water, even though things have improved considerably from last year when I was here, there are still challenges in that sector.
Now, most of the time when you ask people, you'll be like, what do you think should be Barrow's administration's immediate priorities? This is the question I've been asking people. What do you think should be the immediate priorities of this government?
Well, without sounding pompous or presumptuous, I would say it would be agriculture first, a good civil service, a very well-organized civil service to execute what policies the Barrow administration would put in place, and clearly health, the youth, and women. And I think if you were to prioritize these in the midst of a good civil service structure, you can probably begin to deliver some of those goodies in a short while.
What is wrong with our civil service? Is it that the incompetence, inefficiency? What is the problem with our civil service?
Well, the Gambia used to boast one of the best civil service systems. It was one that was touted, it was one that was admired by our neighbors in the West African subcontinent. But of course, 22 years of service or disservice to Jammeh had basically gutted them. They had been used systematically by the former regime to serve his own ends. And when that happens, the state becomes beholden to a single person, and at the expense of the population, at the expense of routine, systematic delivery of goods and services.
I'm surprised you made, when I asked you the immediate priorities, you talked about agriculture and not education.
Well, education is important too. But I think what I would want to do for education is for us to really sit down and think about what kind of education we want in this new Gambia. Is it the same education that produces the same results? Maybe not. So we need to rethink fundamentally what kind of Gambian we want for the next 50 years. I may not live to see it, but my grandchildren, great-grandchildren would probably be the Gambia, or live in the Gambia, that I foresee. The education system, as I said, at some other venue, function, is still very colonial. They produce excellent students at the top, but the rest are basically left out.
What type of education system do we need in the Gambia?
I think we need basic education, an education that is rooted in the sensibilities, the culture, the values of our people. I think we have an education system that doesn't do that. I also believe that an education that really responds to our development needs, whatever those may be, agriculture, among other things, health, gender. What I'm suggesting also is that we need to revisit those historic, centuries-old problems in our culture. Female circumcision, wife beating, violence against women, and a host of other things. And a new Gambia should at least address, if nothing else, tackle these questions.
We will talk about the wife beating, but when you look at our education system, you always have problems with the English and the maths.
Yes.
But some say, you know, as the English language is a colonial relic.
It is.
Is it that we need to, what do you think is the best way so that whatever the people are taught, it can filter down so that people can understand? We have seen the Amharic, the Swahili,
yes.
the Hausa, and so on.
You know, it is still very difficult for somebody 5, 6, 7, 8-year-old to be instructed in a language that is not his or her own.
First language.
That's not their first language. So I think it's about time, after 50 years of independence, that we began to at least indigenize, for the first 6 years of education, teach in our own languages. Of course, we might have to decide, that would be a national debate on what language to use, and so forth and so on. But having a child think in a foreign language, learn in a foreign language, basically pushes him or her to think externally rather than internally.
I'm here with Professor Abdoulaye Sen from Miami University. We are discussing, he is back in the country now, will be lecturing at the University of the Gambia. Mr. Sen, let's talk about we're talking about the education system. We talked about the wife battering. You seem to be a modern man.
Yes.
So you have something, you're talking about the education system, you said you talk about the mod. Now let's move on to the 3 years issue, has also been a debate.
Yes.
What is your stand as far as these 3-5 years is concerned?
Well, I am not wedded to any particular length of time.
Yeah.
The coalition basically came together a few years ago, and decided on 3 years.
3 years, yes.
Now, if they want to revisit those 3 years, I think they have the option. You should have the option to do so. On the other hand, there are those who are more legally oriented who believe that they ought to have the 5-year term. Look, laws, be they legal or otherwise, are constituted and constructed by human beings based on their values and based on their agreements and so forth and so on. They don't drop from the sky.
Sure.
It is people who, with good intentions sometimes, that get together and make those rules and regulations. If the coalition members see it fit to revisit that, I think they should. And I'll be happy with 3 years, but at the same time too, if they make convincing arguments that they need 5 years, in the interest of the Gambia, in the interest of the Gambian people, I can live with that as well.
So, 3 or 5? Which
I would say 5. 5 is good.
5 constituencies. Let's talk about the youths of this country. Let's say like 60% of the Gambian population are youths, and unemployment is a major issue. Most of them are risking their life to go through the Mediterranean Sea. And some will tell you, even if they graduate from the university, they don't get the job, the job market is not there. What will you suggest to the government? Someone who has worked in a bigger university, if I may put it this way.
Well, you know, it's a major challenge. The youth bulge in the Gambia, as you suggested earlier, it's a major challenge. And it will take creative minds to come together and really give it a good shot at resolving, maybe not completely, what the young people face. It will take a combination of ministries, civil society organizations, and young people themselves articulating what it is that they want, and in combination come up with a national policy. I think previous governments have failed the youth in so many important ways, and I think it is about time that, in fact, I had always argued that we needed a national conference that would ferret out some of these concerns. People come from all over the country to decide on what direction Gambia ought to take. I don't think it should be left to the hands of the elites, westernized elites, who for many years since independence, in my humble view, have driven us in the wrong path. And the consequences are dire. The consequences are here for everybody to see. We need a new model. We need to think outside of the box, in other words.
The universities, some always question the University of the Gambia. They will say it doesn't meet the international standard. Is that the case?
Yes, I believe so. I think there's a lot of improvement to be made for UTG to come to the standard where it is acceptable. The quality of students is still poor. Instruction, the faculty needs support. I mean, you talk about a university that doesn't have a library. I mean, come on, where else can that be? So there's potential, though. I think there's a lot of goodwill. And I think with attracting good faculty from the outside, giving them the right incentives, training for those who are here, I think we can begin to turn things around. It's going to take time.
What motivated you to come to a university that doesn't even have all it takes to meet the standard? Because we know when in the ranking, Cape Town University is a standard university, as you know, in Africa.
Yes.
Despite the Makerere and the Sir Anta Job, to them, they are just non-starters. What motivated you to come to this University of the Gambia?
Well, this is home. Gambia has given me a lot. And I believe it is an obligation to do what little I can in improving not only the university, but what little I can for the rest of the society. I went through the education system here. It was different at the time. And went to the US and had a good education. If I can bring back anything to improve education at UTG, I think that would be great.
Where did the problem start? Is it the elementary schooling or the tertiary education?
Well,
where our Gambian education system?
It's a combination. It's a systemic problem, which means it transcends all the institutions. All the institutions are, in one way or another, part of the larger problem. And it will take really a lot of rethinking to see how we can restructure the system, reform the system, to make it amenable to changing economic and global circumstances.
Some said if we have the government revisited the curriculum or even bring back the common entrance, it will solve the problem. Do you think that is the case?
Well, that might be a simple solution. I think it's more complex than that. I think we need to rethink the whole idea of education. What kind of education and what kind of Gambia we want. If we can align those elements, I think we can then have a good system in instructions in Wolof or Mandinka or Sarabule, whatever it is decided upon, for us to produce the right Gambia for the new Gambia.
But again, if you talk to people, they will say it is the poor that is not getting the right education.
That's
the rich
true.
is getting the right education. So should that also be included in the government trying to do more investment in the education system? Looking at our teachers, they wanted to protest because of allowances and so on.
Yes. The elite, for the most part, and the very bright students will do very well anyway. And I'm always disconcerted when I see a lot of students, able students, who otherwise are unable to go to university because they cannot pay. So we must put in place, in my view, opportunities, funding, be it raised here in the country and the diaspora, to enable those who otherwise wouldn't be able to go to university to go have a good education. So access would be very important. Fundamentally, the university is an elitist institution. But the more we provide opportunity for those who otherwise would not, I think the better it would be.
Well, viewers, that is Professor Ablaye Sen from the Miami University in the United States. We will have a short break. When we come back, we'll continue with the interview.
Dalaba Housing Estate is our newest estate located on the Sokoto Chapman Road. You can buy a finished 2 or 3 bedroom house or series plots accompanied with a free fence and gate. At Dalaba Housing Estate, you get to enjoy or via WhatsApp on plus or +220 776 2333. You can also visit our website on www.tap Africa Global. Our experience is global. Our focus.
Replace my AfriCell 3G SIM card.
Why use a 3G SIM card when you have a 4G phone? Replace your 3G SIM card today for the real AfriCell 4G SIM and receive 1 GB of internet data for free.
Really?
Yes, get 1 GB for free just by replacing your SIM card at any AfriCell outlet with no loss of contact. The cost of bundle from the 3G SIM card is the same for the 4G SIM. And guess what? With the 4G SIM card, you can also connect to the 3G network as well.
This is so cool. I'll replace my 3G SIM card right away to the real 4G SIM and receive my very own 1 GB for free.
From AfriCell, it's always real and it's for free.
Where AfriCell goes, no one has the speed to follow.
Welcome back after that short commercial break. And Omar Wale, and I'm here with Professor Ablaye Sen, a Gambian academic at the University of Miami University in the United States. The authority also had a meeting today to discuss about the war price or the price war between the GSM operators in the country, AfriCell and other GSM companies in the country. So we will look at that short report. When we come back, we'll continue with the interview.
Place your 3G SIM card today for the real AfriCell 4G SIM.
When we come back,
from the 3G SIM card is the same for the 4G SIM. And guess what? With the 4G SIM card, you can also connect to the 3G network as well.
This is so cool. We own 1 GB for free.
From AfriCell, it's always real and it's for free.
Where AfriCell goes, no one has the speed to follow.
Well, actually, in the opinion of the operator, it's not an intense price war. What happened is that we have about 4 operators in the market, and in the Gambia we have a liberal system of regulation whereby the market is totally liberalized and there is no controls on the retail segment of the mobile sector. So as a result, we don't set the prices of mobile operations. But when Gamtel wants to do anything or the data, they must apply for a tariff and it is reviewed by a court and accepted. But for mobile sector, it is totally left to competition to determine the prices. So what happened is that I think it started when AfriCell reduced their tariff and QCell also followed suit, and it has been going for some time. But we don't have price cap regulations in the Gambia. We don't set the price also. A price cap regulation is a situation whereby I can set the price floor or the price ceiling. But that is not set in the Gambia also. So the only parameter we had was the quality of service. We ensure that whatever promotions we are doing, no matter the reductions, if the quality of service is affected, the regulator will then come in and tell you, look, you cannot go this far, because your primary objective is to meet the service quality levels for your consumers, regardless of what kind of promotions you want to embark upon. we've done it before. If you are around, some 2 years ago, we stopped all midnight promotions, free calls at midnight, because the quality of service in the parameters were down. So in the same way, we are looking at it from that perspective. We monitor closely, and we discover that as much as they are doing reducing their prices, their quality of service is not affected, and they have all right to reduce their prices. But for them to do it collectively, it could connote a price war, or in effect, in regulatory wise, there's little we can do. Now, the other aspect is it is also possible because it's by coincidence, so Gamtel also reduces their transmission charges. You know, you remember EcoOne back, Gamtel owned the local fiber network, and operators are using it for transmission. 2 months ago, we did a consultancy, and it came out with the results that the fiber price has been reduced by half. So that means the cost also has been reduced by half. So I'm sure that's why they are able to go this far. If not, as a businessman, they would have seen the need that this is not sustainable and they wouldn't go that far. But because the cost drivers are also reduced, coincidentally reduced, it also gives them an avenue to go that far. But we have been monitoring, and we make sure that the quality of service indicators are intact. But the moment there is any deviation from the standard or the norm we set, we definitely come back and tell them you cannot go this far. But for now, there is no basis for us to come in. Well, it's like we never set the prices for any operator in the first instance. Prices are set based on your cost, the cost drivers. And each of them, this is why it's a competitive environment. Even though in most African countries, telephone operators tariffs tend to mirror each other. Even in developed countries, the gap is not very wide for mobile operators because they have similar and identical cost elements. So these people have gone this far. The other operators also.
Well, that is the interview we had with an official of Public Utility Regulatory Authority, PURA, on the price war between the GSM operators in the country. I'm here with Professor Ablaye Sen. Sir, will you one day venture into politics?
That's a good question. I am here to serve in any capacity that I can, be it at the university, be it as an advisor to a government or a ministry, wherever the calling ultimately leads me to. I hope to serve the country and the people of the Gambia in any capacity. Why
are you forming your own, or you will join a party?
I haven't gone that far yet. I'm not even venturing into politics yet. I have yet to retire from my current job.
Okay.
I have family. My wife is here. I have kids in the U.S. So that's a long shot.
Sure.
For now, I want to teach a class here, just explore the terrain, the landscape, meet some officials. If there's anything I can do to help, I'm open to helping. I don't necessarily think that, you know, you can serve only when you're president or a minister. I think many of us, many expatriates, many Gambians in the diaspora are just waiting for an opportunity to help in whatever capacity they can. And I have some expertise in some areas and will be willing to provide that.
Okay, there is this debate also that the coalition government did not at least allocate some positions, like the diaspora's expectation is not met. What do you make of this? That they should be at least be given some ministerial position or any other position within the government. What do you make of that?
Well, for many in the diaspora, they fought Jammeh in collaboration with those here, with the expectation that Gambia would be free. That was the fundamental issue. Now, if appointments were to be made that included Gambians in the diaspora, that would be great. And of course, some of those expected that. But for people like myself, going into Gambia and going out without having to watch my back was the most important. I didn't do it, and many others didn't do it because they wanted a position in government or in some other parastatal. But we did it because we wanted change in the country.
But how about those who did it for that way, not like you, the way you were thinking?
Well, if they're qualified and they can offer something, I think they should be included. Many of us were very concerned about the ways in which the appointments were made. It seemed like there were few procedures followed. It seemed like it was, these were political appointments, especially in the foreign service. It seems like if you have family connections or friends, you could find yourself in government. That is not what we expected. We thought that appointments would take a particular way, a particular procedure to be arrived at, selecting the best and hopefully the brightest.
Nearly 2 years into office, what will be your assessment of Barrow's performance?
Well, overall, I would say they have a C+.
C+, not even B.
They have a C+.
Okay.
I'm a tough grader.
Okay.
And I would say there's still room for improvement.
In which areas?
Practically anything you think about. But communication would be one thing. Okay. I think we need to hear more from the president. We need to hear more from the government. I think there's improvement in that. I think Barrow has become much more assertive. We're hearing more about him. But I think we need to just know the ins and outs. Where's the money? Where's the money going? We've heard about his first lady.
Yeah.
And it's concerning if it is true. The Janney Commission, the revelations are just horrendous. Why are some of these people still in positions of authority? These are questions that are vexing questions. And these are questions that Gambians want answers to.
So in other words, Barrow himself is undermining the commission because he set up a commission to look into the financial dealings and now appointing people before the commission into his cabinet. For example, Mamboure Njie.
That is a decision that I don't know how he got there.
Yeah, but Mamboure Njie is before the commission of inquiries.
Yes.
Yes.
And I think it should take some rethinking. There is also talk in the TRRC.
Yes, appointments.
Appointments that are made that really raise some concern. I think in fact, the CRC too. I guess we need to look into all that, basically. These appointments need to be done in a very judicious way, in a careful way, so as not to give the impression of a conflict of interest. And there has been a lot of concern raised about that.
Finally, what will be your message? I know you are going to the university to lecture, so I don't want to keep you here.
That's okay.
Yeah.
My message is to Gambians to continue to support the government as much as they can. I call for some patience. But at the same time, too, the government would need to make things more amenable, making life slightly easier. Delivering the goods, in other words. The expectations are very high, and I don't believe they can fulfill those expectations. But at the same time, too, they must be seen or perceived to be addressing the concerns that Gambians have. For the most part, many Gambians are disappointed, and I think it will take time and effort for the government to begin to reverse those impressions and that perception.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, Omar. I
Well,
enjoyed it.
viewers, that is Professor Ablai Sen, a Gambian academic at the University of Miami University in the United States. So that's all we have for you today from the FATU Network News Review. Thank you for your time. See you tomorrow. Thank you. Actually.